Hey everyone, and welcome back to Digging Deeper. This is our last week of our 5-week study of Obadiah. We've been walking through verse by verse, looking at the whole chapter, and today we will wrap things up. So we only have 3 verses left from completing this whole series and the walkthrough that we've been going through. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me, for being here, and for if you made it all the way through, congratulations, you're almost to the end. But today we'll finish up. We'll close things out with the book, the last 3 verses. But then at the end, I kind of want to give a few lessons from Obadiah, a few takeaways that we can look at the whole book, and then we can look at some general themes from Obadiah. So, without further ado, let's start in verse 19. The south shall possess the mountains of Esau, and the lowland shall possess Philistia. They shall possess the fields of Ephraim and the fields of Samaria. Benjamin shall possess Gilead. So the first part of that verse, the south shall possess the mountains of Esau. So in the past few weeks, we've learned that Edom's worst acts of crimes were when they helped invaders when Israel was attacked. And the divine judgment here is that those in the mountains of Esau, like it says there, will suffer the same. So their land will be occupied by those they hate, those from the south, so those outside of Edom. The lowland were the people that were from the foothills of Judah. So they will possess Philistine. Philistine was another enemy, one of the neighboring countries, another enemy of Israel. And then it says the fields of Ephraim, which are located in Israel, along with Benjamin, which was one of the 12 tribes of Israel. So this verse starts to allude to the division of territories, that is going to occur. Jump into verse 20. And the captives of this host of the children of Israel shall possess the land of the Canaanites, as far as Zarephath. The captives of Jerusalem, who are in Sepharad, shall possess the cities of the south. Again, here we are continuing that division of territories. The Canaanites were another rival nation along with the Philistines, and we see that they too will be taken. And part of Edom's judgment was shame, to be shamed and destroyed. And to add to this shame, their very enemies will occupy their land, adding insult to injury. And those that were captive, as it says, the captives of Jerusalem, will possess the cities of the south. So again, we have this full circle coming about. Verse 21. Then saviors, and I love that this is the last verse in Obadiah, and Obadiah starts it out with, but then saviors shall come to Mount Zion to judge the mountains of Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. Obadiah, a prophet, ends the book with a fitting prophecy of end times. So then saviors or deliverers, or those who have been rescued, will go to Mount Zion, which is a direct reference to Jerusalem, but not the Jerusalem that we see here in the story, not the current Jerusalem, but a saved Jerusalem, one that will be restored to the promised land. And part of that restoration will be to rule over those lands that once belonged to the Edomites. So to judge the mountains of Esau, giving them rule over those lands. And then finally, the final verse ends by reminding us that God's judgment is not only about revenge, but reconciliation and restoration. And that, my friends, is the book of Obadiah. But before we wrap this whole series up, I first want to go and highlight a few of the key big ideas that we pulled out throughout the weeks that we went through. So the first goes all the way back to Genesis, to Esau and Jacob, where we saw a single conflict between one relationship that caused a permanent rift between two brother nations. and resonate on that term, brother nations, or think of it as nations are brothers and sisters. Conflict, like with Esau and Jacob, can shape history like it did with the Edomites and the Israelites, but only if we let it. So because with Edom, it led to policies and systems of behaviors that destroyed their relations between nations. So we cannot repeat their behavior, and we have to see other nations or ethnic groups as brothers and sisters. Second is simply the golden rule to treat others as you would want to be treated. Edom's conflict with Israel is the epitome of what goes around comes around. Obadiah's prophecy not only spoke to Edom, but it spoke to all nations. In verse 15 it says, all nations. They will be judged by the way they treat other people. Third is that injustice and oppression are intolerable. Edom gloated at Jerusalem's misfortune and ignored their cries for help. God told Edom, in a sense, to enjoy your gloating while it lasts, because it won't last long. God's love does not call us to gloat. 1 Corinthians 13:6 puts God's love this way. It says, it does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in truth. And lastly, the Edomites put their security in their earthly defensives. If we remember back, they were in the clefts of the rocks. God brought them low and drove them out. Our security must be found in God. God is the author of justice and mercy. He is our security. So those are some takeaways from the book of Obadiah. I've really enjoyed doing this for the past 5 weeks. I've learned a lot. I hope you guys have learned a lot, and hopefully we can do something like this again soon. So if you guys have any questions or maybe some ideas for the future of digging deeper, any videos that you might suggest that we do, just go ahead and comment or let us know on Sundays or write on the Connect card and just give us some ideas. Other than that, thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure.